RAD Radio presents the RAD pROBcast.
My guest on this episode of the pROBcast is once again my wife, Christina. Hello, wife.
Hello, husband.
Do I get to at least acknowledge that I'm proud you have your very first official out of law school job?
Yeah, you can be. Wait, are you asking can you be proud? Or can you announce? Because I think you already did both.
Yeah, that part.
Yes.
Well, isn't that pretty impressive?
I'm glad, yeah. I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Because a lot of people ask now what? Because you have to wait now until February for the bar.
Right.
So between now and then, you have already gotten an offer that you've accepted from a law firm.
That's correct.
To be a non-lawyer lawyer.
Yes. Like I'm not going to be practicing as someone's attorney. I'm doing all I'm doing all the work, getting zero credit.
And you got that fantastic job of doing all the work and getting no credit by doing what we lay people would call was an internship, but you guys call it an externship. But either way, they saw how incredible you are, and that's why they made you an offer.
Correct.
Which is where the pride comes in for me.
Thank you, babes.
Also, for those that are watching the pROBcast, because this means nothing if you're listening, this is also your first pROBcast in your braids.
Oh, my braids,
which
yeah.
have
these were
received,
still a new thing.
Well, they received rave reviews on Instagram. 100% everybody loves them, and you've even blinged them out a little bit for this episode.
I put little barrette thingies in them. I can't find them, but whatever.
What do you mean you can't find them?
No, I can't find them with my hands, and if I do, there's one. Yeah, I put little blingy barrettes, because I'm wearing brown. I'm brown, too, but I'm wearing...
It's very important we paint the picture for those that aren't watching.
But I'm wearing a lighter color, like a neutral brown, and I feel like I looked a little dull. So I just figured I'd put a little shiny things to distract everyone in the video, or everyone watching the video. There's only 2 people in the video.
So as we continue to make this painful to listen to if you're not watching, I actually intentionally had 1 or 2 more visual things. Now, the good news about this is...
Great radio.
Well, that's the good news. I've been doing this for 3 decades.
Oh, man.
So I know how to describe things for the people that are only listening but not watching, I hope.
Okay.
Because there's been an ongoing storyline over the fact that I have this gorgeous scar on my right hand, which we talked about on the RAD radio show. And we actually have an opportunity because we record this in our living room. Or is it a family room?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, but it's... Yeah, well, we
discussed this in one of the pROBcasts, but I don't remember what we came up with.
I'm trying to be consistent. I think it's a living room because we live in here.
Right, sure, that's fine. And we are actually sitting at ground zero where the incident that caused the scar occurred.
Yes.
So the scar ultimately did wind up getting stitches at the behest of my wife, although the super glue did its job. And my doctor said it would heal fine, but it would take many weeks and not look very good. But by getting stitches, it took only 10 days, and it looks like a scar. And I'm told chicks dig scars. So cool, huh?
I don't need any chicks to dig anything.
Well, I was pointing at you like you're my
dig
chick.
Them something. Okay.
That would dig.
Oh yeah, yours. No,
scar.
Yes, your scar's great. It's beautiful. He's a great stitcher.
Oh, yeah, that was the first thing you said when I came home after getting stitches that night when we had to change our dressing. You're like, oh, wow, he's very good.
He is, yes. But I'm still annoyed that you waited till the next day, but that's fine. It's fine.
So, anyways, a quick reenactment of how I got this scar on my right hand, on the top of my right hand, about an inch from the base of my thumb. It occurred while Christina was at said externship towards the end of my evening while I was sitting on our sofa and I was playing fetch with our dogs on our sofa because we play house fetch with them. Now, here's the visual part that I'm going to show for those that are watching. For those of you that are listening, you're not going to hear much for a moment unless my wife happens to do play-by-play, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the camera my scar, which is about, half an inch long.
I think that's a full inch.
Oh, well.
Isn't an inch like
That's why you love me then.
Oh, gosh.
And then I'm going to actually also show the underside of the sofa and explain after I show it what actually caused this whole thing to happen. So
Okay. Well, sir, please be careful when you're explaining, meaning demonstrating for those watching the video. Don't do it again.
It can't possibly
Because
happen.
I can't go through all this. There's a lot of electric stuff in front of me that I can't bump, and I can't rescue you.
I'm not going to put my hand where the injury occurred.
Okay.
I mean, I am, but not in the way that it did.
Okay, see. Go ahead.
Okay,
We'll see.
So, what
I'll
I'm
be
going to
ready
do...
to sacrifice my foot.
What I'm going to do, and I hope my wife is going to use the broadcasting skills that she's learned from me to do a little play-by-play as I do it. I'm going to get up, and I'm going to lift up my sofa, which I'll explain what my sofa means after I sit back down.
Okay.
And we're gonna show and explain the very thing that caused the gash into my hand.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna sit back down. That's the plan. Got it?
I got it, but I feel there's a lot of pressure. I'm nervous. Okay. Okay. Get up carefully.
Okay.
Ah, the microphones are moving. It's that thing. So if I sound funny, it's because Rob just tilted the whole couch up. For those of you listening on the app, and there's the what is that? The scar that's so beautifully stitched up, and now skin is healed over it.
I don't know that they're listening on the app, by the way.
The app, or on SoundCloud, or on all the various ways that you can listen. Wait, I thought this was my microphone, so I was moving it.
Why would your microphone not be pointing at you?
No, because it was closest to me. So
right.
Anyway.
So what I did was I show that I have a reclining sofa. We have a reclining sofa, but I'm sitting in my seat. So I had the leg rest up. When the leg rest is up, and what I did was I lifted it up, and I showed that, of course, there's mechanisms.
Yes, and it's electric, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, there's metal pieces, and some of them are dull, like a dull rounded pieces, and some of them have a little bit of a sharpness where if you were to touch it, you're not going to get cut. But what happened?
So here's the problem: we have a sectional that likes to come unsectioned.
It's a killer sectional. Yeah.
We've learned to hate our sectional sofa because it disconnects constantly. So instead of it being one giant solidified sofa, it becomes the only reason that I was able to just lift up the piece of the sofa that I'm sitting on is because it's disconnected again.
Yep.
And so I lifted up the seat that I'm sitting in and the console.
Where you put your cups and you open the thing to put the remotes inside.
It's like a center console in a car.
Center console.
And that is disconnected from where Christina's sitting, which is what the situation was on the night in question. And I was taking a ball and I was throwing it to the dogs, and they were going to fetch it over by the front door, and then they would run back. Well, I threw it to Maestro, the German Shepherd, and he ran back. I had my footrest up, and he dropped the ball, and it rolled under my footrest. So I leaned forward to grab the ball, which was on the right side of my footrest. Well, as I leaned forward, because it's not connected to the sectional, the weight of me leaning forward caused it to lean forward.
Think of a seesaw. Just envision a seesaw.
And so, as my hand went under my footrest to grab the ball, and I leaned forward, the seesaw went down and stabbed the top of my right hand, to which I said, ow. And
yeah, that's all you said.
It is. You've heard the recording.
Yes, I'm so flabbergasted, but go ahead.
So I grabbed the ball, and then I pulled it out from under the footrest, and my hand was covered in blood. And I think the next thing I said was, oh, that's not good.
You said, oh, okay, that's tissue. Okay, or that's scar. You said something like that's tissue. Okay, and you just kept going. All right, so first things first. And I hear him go into the bathroom.
Right. So, and first of all, Christina knows all this because she went and played back our video cameras that pick up audio that are in the home. We don't have a video camera focused on this room, but we do have one close enough that you got the audio. And so you heard me then walk to the nearest bathroom, which is where I began running water on it and trying to immediately stop the bleeding, because I was thinking this looks really bad.
Yeah, you did. You said, oh, that's bad. Okay. And then you said, that's tissue.
Right, because it was deep enough.
It looked like... It looked like ground beef. I could see the ground beef under your skin. Like I could see
Drama.
Okay. Well, but it's also where that pressure, like if you think of your hand, where that pressure point between your pointer and your thumb is that fatty area, which I don't think that's fat. It's more like tissue.
Yeah, and I was more concerned about a nerve.
Muscle or
a tendon, worse.
Yeah, so he sends, go ahead. You go ahead.
What?
I didn't know the order of the story.
Well, no, so I rinsed it off and I grabbed, we have napkins, like fancy napkins in our guest bathroom here.
They're called guest napkins.
Whatever,
to dry your hands so you don't have to use paper towels or a gross reusable towel.
So I used those to apply pressure, and I was actually surprised that it wasn't continuing to gush. And I was like, oh, okay, this is good. I don't have to figure out a way to get to the emergency room. I can handle this. So I applied the pressure. I walked to the other end of our house where the laundry room is. And that's where our utility room, whatever, we keep the crazy glue and also the Band-Aids. And I was able to continue to apply pressure while grabbing the crazy glue and opening a Band-Aid to the point where I was able to pull back the napkin tissue towel, apply the crazy glue, and immediately get a Band-Aid on there. And you have to, it's actually, I described that incorrectly there at the end. You have to wait the exact amount of time for the crazy glue to set so that when you put the Band-Aid on, you don't crazy glue the Band-Aid onto your hand.
Did it burn when you, what? It didn't burn because when you put the crazy glue in there?
No. I don't know if at that point some sort of hand shock had set in. I'm not sure. But no, it didn't at all. I was just thrilled that I had triaged the situation to the point where if I was going to have to wind up getting stitches, I didn't have to do it that night. Because this is like a weeknight at 6 or 6:30.
Germs come into play.
I'd had a tetanus shot. I'm fine. Everything's fine. As evidenced by the fact that I'm here. So that's my attempt at recreating the situation with some visual help if you're actually watching the pROBcast. Well.
Yeah. But what you left out so conveniently was that I'm working at the firm this whole time and you send me, and I have hours left on, like, until I come home.
This is the mistake I made.
And you send me a picture of the post crazy glue, which I think probably made it look worse. And I'm like, what? And you're like, I'm going to go to bed. Oh, what? What do you mean you're going to go to bed? No, you're going to get in the car and you're going to go to the emergency room and get stitches. And Which,
there's
a story.
Right. No, so.
You tortured me for hours, but it's fine. I'm glad you're fine, and I'm glad you're a man. And it was actually a bit of a turn on hearing you just like not even freak out. And had I been here, I would have made things worse. So I'm glad the powers that be.
All true.
Made things happen.
My point was, I never even should have texted you that it happened. I should have waited until the next morning because I knew I was going to have to reevaluate it the next morning. And when I did evaluate the next morning, despite your nagging notes that I needed to get stitches, I had already come to that conclusion in the morning when I woke up. Like, yeah, I need to go see my doctor. This doesn't look... But I should have just not sent you any of the pictures because it created all of that anxiety, and I understand why. Because had I gone to the emergency room, there would have been no show the next morning. It was already like 6:30. You get to the emergency room. I got to go through COVID testing, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, you have to do that just to get stitches?
Yes, you have to do that to walk into the damn hospital.
Okay, well, I mean, it was a lose-lose on that end because I would have been annoyed if you didn't show me.
It was a win-win the way I did it, so, you know.
You did everything right, but...
Whoa, I'm sorry, what? What?
Okay. Next topic.
Okay, next topic is the last visual, I promise. So as we sit here in our sofa, I just want to take my glass and I'm going to put it in our cup holder.
Oh my gosh.
And I want to know why when I put my glass in the cup holder, it doesn't fit straight. It leans. Because it used to be that when I put my glass in our cup holder in the sofa, it would just sit there perfectly. And now no glass or cup that we have fits in our cup holder, and that seems like it's wrong. And I know there's been a change, and I was wondering if you could explain yourself.
I thought, well, okay. I don't know what happened to the original cup holders that came with the couch. I think like I took them out to wash them, and then one of the dogs like bit into one or something.
You're blaming the dogs.
Well, hold on. There was a chewed part where there was like a dog bite in it. Like someone had grabbed it and thought it was a toy. And so, ow. And so,
Ow, what?
Sorry, my bracelet caught onto my braid and pulled my hair.
Okay.
Sorry.
You were blaming the dogs, I believe.
I was blaming you invited me here. I was blaming the dogs because of the hole. And so I just kept getting tired of it because it was ugly. And so I went on Amazon. I even measured these damn cup holders, but Amazon didn't tell me. Yes, I remember I had you measure it too. The Amazon didn't tell me that it had like a beveled bottom where it's not flat. So we can't use the cup holders.
Okay, that's a fair enough explanation. My follow-up question to that is, that was weeks ago. Why do we still have this issue?
Because I don't trust buying any cup holders anymore. And I thought I kept the old ones and I don't know where they are. Oops.
Okay. So the main reason that
on that.
What'd you say? I invited you here.
You invited me.
To our home and our family room.
I'm the talent.
Living room, sorry.
You're treating your talent a little bit subpar, sir.
Was because we've actually had... This is where the kind of like... I hope not, but potentially the fun gets sucked out of this podcast. But we've had a lot of people actually write in and ask for your input on this, which is Afghanistan. And we had Eddie from NorCal Gun Vault come on the RAD radio show as a guy who served 20 years, but as he said, he was never in Afghanistan. Doesn't mean he doesn't have opinions and feelings and emotions.
Right, of course.
But it's different. Well, it may or may not be different because the truth of the matter is, as we record this, you and I haven't really talked about this.
No. Just
because of our schedules, mainly. And I've only heard you make a couple passing comments, so I don't know how you're feeling about Afghanistan in general, but a lot of people did write in, even before Eddie was on, and then afterwards they were like, Rob, Christina was there. What does she think? And so I wanted to give us a chance without, because a lot of people are like, well, bring her onto the RAD show, and without us talking about it, I'm like, I ain't going to do that to my wife, so why not just talk about it on the pROBcast where we have a lot more control and ability. We're in our home. It's comfortable, blah, blah, blah. So the way I thought, if you don't mind that we would do this is we'll start with, you're no longer in the Army.
Nope.
You did 12 years. Mm-hmm. And you spent a year in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And we have mentioned on the air before, you're an interrogator.
Yeah, I was.
So let's start with, we are, as we record this, the United States is in the process of leaving Afghanistan entirely. Before we get to how that's being done and what's happening, there are some people that, when the withdrawal began, there are some veterans who have served in Afghanistan. And there's no shortage of them who have been going on cable TV and social media who are saying, it was a waste. I served for nothing. Why did we do this? Why did I see my friends die? Why did I see people lose limbs? Why did I lose limbs? Is that fair? Is that how you feel? Did you waste that? Was that a wasted year?
I think I'm still on the fence on what I think about that. No time in general to me is a waste. That's how I see it. It makes who you are, all of that. But when it comes to the extreme sacrifices that a lot of soldiers made, a lot of people in the military made, contractors as well, just anyone who went over there for the cause, it is jarring to me that a lot of people are going to have lifelong effects of that. And
a lot of people, U.S. military soldiers, or you mean a lot of people like also the Afghanis and everything else, or
the Afghans? So no, I'm not talking about the Afghans, but I'm sure they will. Afghani is their currency, but it's a common mistake. But I'm not trying to put anything down about the locals in Afghanistan. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, especially the innocent ones their country's been at war forever. Right now, I'm just exclusively talking about those that went over for the cause on the U.S. side. I struggle to say that it was a waste, just because we learned a lot. We lost a lot, though, and a lot of people lost everything. They lost family members. Soldiers lost their lives. And I keep saying soldiers. I was Army, so we say soldiers. All U.S. forces anyone who died in combat gave the ultimate sacrifice, and I can only imagine what their family feels like when they see these things, when they see that what's going on right now.
So I'm doing this from memory, but I know I'm close. Give or take 3,500 died, but 20,000 were maimed, or I forget the other term for not just losing limbs, but injured to the point where they're on disability for the rest.
Right.
Which, not to discount the 3,500, but those are 20,000-ish people whose lives were irrevocably changed. And the argument that I've heard made by those who say it was a waste was things like, why did I give up my leg? Why did I lose my leg? Because essentially, Afghanistan now is exactly the same as it was when we went there 20 years ago. Exactly. The Taliban is back in charge. We already know that this Taliban is not a new Taliban, which was their marketing technique for about 48 hours. We already know that that's not true. So we had... Actually, let's just start there. That's been the big arguing point, is that what did we do? Now, there's some counter arguments to that. You've already brought up some. Another was, well, there hasn't been a major terrorist attack, certainly not on the level of 9/11, for 20 years. So we delayed or prevented that. Eventually, we'll have to get to talking about, well, yeah, but does that just mean another one's inevitable? But, yeah. I mean, I found it really difficult to swallow the idea that you or anyone else wasted that time, that it was service for nothing. But I'm a civilian. I have no concept. Yeah, and I mean, and it's such a double-edged sword, because so for those soldiers, for those that are saying that it was a waste, a lot of people died, were maimed, horrible things happened because people were protecting their brothers and sisters in arms. And that's not a waste, trying to protect your brothers and sisters in arms. But then the other edge of the sword is, we wouldn't be in this situation if we had... I can't say that. I can't say we wouldn't be in this situation if it was completely thought through and we weren't. In some ways, as everyone has a tendency to be arrogant with what we thought we could do, our intentions were, and the power we had over Afghanistan. What about that? So that's why I just can't come to a conclusion. I purposely stayed away from it just because I'm not ready. Not that I'm not ready to process the feelings. I don't really. To me right now, it's going to take me to a place I don't want to be. No, and I really appreciate you doing this, because of course. I've genuinely noticed that you've been avoiding it, and even when I allude to it or it's on the TV because I have to watch it for my job, I notice you either avoid it or you don't comment much. But what about that? What you just alluded to there? What the mission in general from the beginning? We were attacked on 9/11. Al-Qaeda was allowed to train in Afghanistan at will, even though 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. They had joined Al-Qaeda. They were training in Afghanistan. So we need to go to Afghanistan to destroy it as a haven for terrorists. To destroy the key leaders. I mean, that was the purpose. Right. That was the battle plan. I mean, and then it became, now we're going to try to do what multiple empires throughout history have never been able to do, most recently the Soviet Union. We're going to try to nation build a country that has never been susceptible to that or willing to do that for a variety of reasons. And is that where this falls apart for you? Like around 2002 or 3, where we go, we're going to stick around and we're going to build all these schools and all these highways, and we're going to show them that democracy works, even though no one has ever been. Is that the arrogance, or was that a good idea? Yeah. I mean, it was. I don't know if it was a good idea. That's above my pay grade. But that's such a great military expression. I love that. It really is. But my thought process, and like I said, this is above my pay grade. It's probably above my level of thinking too. I
I'm not so arrogant to think that it's not.
But boy, are you arrogant at times, let me tell you. It's just being married to you. Just saying.
I mean, come on. You know me. So the arrogance to me is exactly what you said. Going into this country, having this, I wouldn't say, well, okay, let's just speak in broad terms so I can stop giving disclaimers. Having this complete resistance to our presence, this complete resistance to our trying to tell a country, look at us, we're great, we're trying to show you what we have, we want you to do it how we're doing it. And I'll lower it down or break it down to the point of like an experience that a lot of people probably have. Your parents, they go through life, they raise you, and when you are an adult in their position and you're making decisions that they may find questionable because they didn't do it that way, they're thinking, oh, no, you have to do it the way I did it for it to work. I'm not saying that Afghanistan got their shit together. Obviously not. Obviously not. But the arrogance is that we thought we could just go in there and be like, hey, y'all, we're here. Let's go ahead. Y'all assimilate to us versus us. I mean, we're not going to assimilate to them, but you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Does it make sense? Okay. Because I feel like I'm talking in circles because I have not sat down with myself to think about this topic.
No, but I think that rawness is what is most compelling about this. Because the truth of the matter is, from talking to you, you actually enjoyed your time in Afghanistan.
I did. I enjoyed the learning experience and just the experience in general because by the nature of my job, I had to immerse myself into their culture in one way, shape, or form. I had to learn how to get close to, quote unquote, close to the person sitting in front of me that wanted to kill me and my brothers and sisters in arms just a day ago when they were captured.
Well, what I've heard what I've taken away from talking to you is that you have a real affinity for the culture. I mean, you've told me some pretty impressive stories about the people and the culture, and you get pretty, I don't know if defensive is the word, but maybe protective when people speak in broad strokes about the people of Afghanistan.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from my work with like a lot of the interpreters, because obviously I don't speak the language, so I had to use an interpreter in my line of work. And in my line of work, just to continue on what I was mentioning, it's a very intimate setting where I'm sitting this close, if not closer, and we probably have our hands in the same like meal that we're sharing together while we're talking.
Are you armed? Is there someone armed in the room with you?
I'm in there. No, there are MPs outside where it's like a whatever. I guess.
Do they have a see-through mirror? Are they watching? I mean, what if he just starts choking you?
There are ways to see things.
Okay.
There are ways to see. So I'm sitting there. I'm completely vulnerable, and I mean, most people, even if you're not watching the video version of this, you know, I'm not a large woman. I'm not this big strong. I'm strong, but you know what I mean. I'm small, and it looks easy to take me over. So having an interpreter there, they're your teammate, and they teach you a lot because they see and hear everything you're doing, and they talk to you outside of it and say, hey, well, here's how the culture works in this way or that way, and don't have me quote anything because it's been a while and my brain's just whatever today.
So there's three people in the room: you, the interpreter, and the person being interrogated. The person
I'm speaking to, yes. And so you develop that bond with your interpreters where it's like, I trust you, they trust me. I know a lot of people will have things to say. Otherwise, I understand. The ones that I worked with, they taught me a lot, and they made sure, because of the nature of my job, that I was aware of these things so that I could understand, because once you understand something, it's easier to use it to your advantage.
So not all interrogations are putting people under a hot lamp and or going to the most extreme examples of waterboarding or something less than that. It's actually as you describe it, getting closer to the person and gaining their trust. Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say 95% of all of my interrogations, and I did hundreds of them, because 95% of my successful ones, and I have had hundreds of them, there's arrogance, came from me gaining their trust and them just wanting to sit and talk with me. Whether it's because I'm on the fringe because I'm a black woman in Afghanistan, they're not used to that and whatever.
Did that make you more or less acceptable because your skin is darker, or is that a completely ignorant question?
In my experience, I don't know about this. If it was because my skin was darker, I think there's just not a lot of black people. There's not black people in Afghanistan by the norm, but
they are all people of color by our definition. Yes. By an American definition. So my question was, and that's why I asked if it was ignorant, did they view you more friendly because, oh, hey, she looks a little bit more like my hue?
I don't think it was that.
None of that's playing into it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not in their head, but I don't think so. But what I would say is 95% of the successful interrogations that I experienced and I did were from them trusting me because I treated them like a human being. I wanted to get to know them because, spoiler alert, I get to know you. You tell me more secrets. You tell me more things about you, and I can use it against you, and you won't even know it. So it's these little things, like if you've ever manipulated a friend, you can be an interrogator. I mean, that's the nature of the way that it worked for me, I guess.
And quick reminder, those of you listening and watching, I'm married to that. Did you, other than the obvious setting, which you're trained for, did you ever have, without necessarily describing it, a really scary incident, a moment? In what you're describing that became...
Yeah, I've had a couple. One is I can look back now and laugh about it because it was... in the moment, I'll just tell the story, but I can look back and laugh now. But I had this very, very large detainee, the person I'm speaking to, he was extremely tall, just huge, NFL big.
Okay, so like people we know, like Dawn's husband Gary or our friend Tony, bigger? Tony,
and, so and a little bit bigger.
6'4", like 300, maybe 6'6".
Big guy.
NFL linebacker, like you said. Okay.
And
beard.
Yes.
All that.
Yes. Yeah.
The whole look. Okay.
The whole everything.
Sheesh. And you're 5'4", 6"?
I'm 5'5" on a good day.
Yeah. Okay.
So he loved chatting with me, or this person loved chatting with me, and we would sit and we would have a meal together and we just talk. To his knowledge, we just talk, and he started developing feelings for me. Or he started saying he was having these dreams or whatever, that we were getting married or something. Whatever, I'm gonna go with it. So I'm just like, oh, okay, well, you always still want to set those boundaries because you're like, okay, that's not what's happening here. Just make sure you know. But one day he was overcome by his feelings. And so he grabs me by the back of the neck, and we're sitting down on like these little puffs. Like it's a comfortable little
pillows, right?
Pillow puffs. And, he grabs by the back of my neck like he's gonna kiss me, and he pulls me towards him and lays one on my cheek. And the interpreter that was there with me, he was like, no, but he's not going to put himself in danger. But I was just like, yeah, you can't do that. And then I just kind of got up and I left, because at this point I'm seeing red because no one came to my rescue.
Right, the MPs didn't storm
that
in.
That is your job. So
you're not seeing red at the guy you're interrogating. You're seeing red because your backup ain't backing you up.
Yeah, I'm like, what? You guys, what happened there? So I take a break and I yell at a couple people that should have been yelled at, and then it never happened again. But there were some close calls. I mean, we had people breaking out of things, throwing metal chairs, and just people get mad. I mean, it's an angry situation, but I knew my strengths and weaknesses, and I wasn't going to go in there and try and act, like gruff and tough, because that's not my strength. That's not how I get what I want.
So you've alluded to a couple things that can't be ignored. Your interpreter. This is one of the big stories that's been developing over the last week, is getting out the people that helped America, and the extent to which we have or haven't gotten them out, because they're viewed now as traitors or co-conspirators with America. We know that the Taliban, in many cases, has already hunted them down or done horrible things to their family. We also know that America has gotten tens of thousands of them out. Again, this has been a 20-year war, and we have brought tens of thousands of them to America under the guise of "you helped us." But now that we are ending this, there is this angst over America is the country that leaves no one behind, including those who help us. So what is the response, the emotional reaction, whatever, that you have of the idea that maybe, I don't know if you know where your interpreter is, but your interpreter or anyone else who wants to get out, not being gotten out by America?
So, most of the most if not all, don't quote me on this, but I'm almost positive that the interpreters that I was using for my job, because of the high sensitivity of it, security-wise, were U.S. citizens, but they were so they had gotten their citizenship or in the process, something of that sort. Don't quote me on that, but there was some tie to, okay, we're not just, someone can't just apply from, outside the gate, which is off the fob for people that, I don't know if that's commonly used term, outside the gate. Okay, never mind.
I don't think so.
All right, well, someone can't just be like, hey, I want to come be an interpreter, and there's a heavy vetting process, and I believe for my position specifically, so if people red pin me, whatever, sorry, but they had to have some sort of tie to the United States, whether it was citizenship or not. But my reaction to just the general idea of some interpreters that did help us, or just any natives that helped us and they were left behind, is that's really tricky, because you never know. I mean, a lot of times people are doing things just to support their families. There's what we call green on blue attacks, where at the time, like the Afghan National Army, if they were to turn on a U.S. soldier, but we're working together at the time, things like that's green on blue. That's a green on blue crime. We get notifications all the time. Oh, there's a green on blue incident, things like that, where it's like it's hard to know if they do come here, is it going to be, are they going to want to be here, or you know what I mean? Are they still on our team? But I'm not saying that for all interpreters at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm saying it's a very, very hard situation that I am lucky that I don't have to make a decision on.
So it's not as simple as the black and white
you
world
helped us come over
that a lot of people are making it sound like. And I know a lot of people are doing it for political reasons, to bring down the current administration. If we take them out of it, there are also a lot of, for example, veterans who would be of the political party of the current president, Democrats, who are saying, we need to bring back everyone who was an interpreter who helped us. But you're saying even in that case, take the politics out of it, there's still a gray area. It's not that simple.
It's so gray. It's so gray. Like I could argue both sides of it, but I just...
You agree, though, with the premise that America leaves no one behind that wants to be brought back, that wants to be rescued.
I agree that in a perfect world that's what we would abide by, and that would be our MO here. Yeah. Do
you were stationed at Bagram?
Mm-hmm.
I know you've avoided the news. Are you aware that we surrendered Bagram? Basically gave it up?
I'm aware. We were the last group at the specific FOB within Bagram.
What is that? What is a FOB? I use that to get into my building.
Forward operating base.
What?
Forward operating base.
I know, but most people don't know that. So.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It's just where... it's where we sleep, work.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
or unless you go outside the gate.
So as America prepared to leave Afghanistan in mid to late August, they turned Bagram over to the Afghan National Army, who quickly folded and lost the base, which a lot of people now are Monday morning quarterbacking, saying, what the hell was that plan? Bagram was secure. It was bigger than the Kabul International Airport.
Huge.
Why in the world would we give that up? Why wouldn't that be the last place that we left? Do you, and again, I'm basing all of these questions off what I'm seeing, people that were and who served in Afghanistan that are complaining. That seems to me, as a guy that doesn't know anything I'm talking about, like, yeah, why didn't we do that? Why didn't we hold Bagram until the very end? Does that seem right to you?
But it's above my pay grade.
Does it bother you? I mean, you lived there for a year. Does it bother you? Or are you like, that's part of serving? Or you not want to talk about it?
I mean, it's part of serving, I guess. I don't make the decisions, and most of us don't make the decisions, and yeah. That's
part of the tough part, isn't it? Is that you have to carry out the orders you're given, no matter how much you agree or disagree with them.
Yeah. Which
is one of the things I'm hearing these last 72 hours while we're recording this is it doesn't matter in the end how much somebody on the ground knows how stupid the order is. You got to do it.
Well, obviously, as long as it's lawful.
Right.
But it makes a lot of people that serve feel like a pawn and underappreciated, just expendable. That's what it is. And I think that's what a lot of people are feeling right now. They're feeling like we were all just like pennies spent. And when I say we, I'm actually taking myself out of it. Those that paid the ultimate price, those that are paying the price today still, not even just physically, mentally. I know that I'm one of those people where I'm like, come on, let's get back here and let's assimilate back to like real world life. Okay, well, I had a job where I had the privilege of doing that. Where I could come home and I could do that. And even people in my MOS or in supporting roles, my MOS, they don't have that privilege. I know I've talked tough and everything, but this has kind of put it into a new perspective for me. It's really, I think a lot of people are feeling really, really underappreciated. They feel used. Family members probably feel like you took the most important thing away from me for something that you don't even have. You look at it. It wasn't even important to you, but you thought that my son, my father, my husband, my wife, my daughter, whatever, was my mom, my dad, was one of the many that were worth this, what I'm looking at right now, this chaos, this freaking chaos. And so I think that's the anger that a lot of people are feeling. And I hurt so much for the families because it sucks. And that's the understatement of the century. It sucks.
So one of the things I've said through this process is the Taliban takeover and all of the chaos that's being wrought on the Afghan citizens, that was inevitable from the moment we, in May of 2020, under the Trump administration, negotiated with the Taliban that we were leaving. What wasn't inevitable, in my opinion, this is what I've said, is the way in which it has unfolded. In other words, the minute America was gone, and that was the plan under the Trump administration. We're leaving. We're not leaving anyone behind in terms of we're not leaving a force at all. The minute every soldier from America was gone, the Taliban was going to take the country over, lickety-split, and they were going to begin to re-torture citizens that they wanted to torture. That part was inevitable. What wasn't was what we have been living since mid-August when we gave up Bagram, literally ceding any type of leverage that we had, and allowed the Taliban to take over while we're still there, trying to get literally hundreds of thousands of citizens and foreign nationals that helped us. What are they? SVIs, I think they're called. Strategic visa. I forget what that. I'm having a brain fart on that one. But those would be like the interpreters and things like that.
Yeah.
So we've got 5,000 troops trying to get 250,000 total people out of the country with no base, and none of that part needed to happen, which I think is, this is all my opinion, this is what's infuriating so many of us, is we knew leaving was going to cause the women and girls of Afghanistan to go back to the Stone Ages. Those of us who pay attention. We knew the Taliban was going to take over. We knew that meant Al-Qaeda was going to be back in Afghanistan. But we didn't know that we were going to start losing dozens of American soldiers because of the stupid, chaotic way we left. That seems to be what's really rubbing a lot of us the wrong way.
Yeah, from the way you're explaining it, it sounds very careless. And again, above my pay grade. Why those decisions were made, I don't know. But it looks to people that are angry, and even people that aren't angry, it appears careless, and it just feeds into that, okay, well, we're all expendable theory, which is it's disheartening.
There's this overwhelming, on all political sides, Democrat, Republican, Independent, overwhelming majority of people say we need to be out of Afghanistan. Does that then, is this just a never-ending thing? Is this just part of America's always at risk? It's always a target. And now Afghanistan's going to become what it was, a haven for terrorists. And we just all need to sit around and wait for the next 9/11. This isn't a military question. It's a you as a citizen question. Is this just what it is?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's kind of where we're at. Protect ourselves and just do our best to not let another 9/11 happen. And
which that's intelligence community stuff, right?
It is.
Yeah. Do you? One of the things I've thought of watching the coverage was when you see Taliban spokespeople, people that identify by name, or they're just on camera. Because one of the things the Taliban did as they marched from Kandahar into Kabul was they released all the prisoners that had been put in jail by the United States, the Afghan army. They released them all. And I wonder, how would you react if you saw a face that you interrogated?
No, I thought about that.
You have or haven't?
I have.
You don't know till you feel it?
How would I feel?
Would you recognize them?
I would recognize many of them. Yes. I would recognize many, 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 many of them, because it's not like you meet with them once. I've had several of them where I met with them from the first day I got in the booth to the day we said, okay, well, we're not doing these anymore, because it was part of the beginning stages of the handover.
You hand them over then to somebody else? No,
the beginning stages of us shutting down and handing over the facility I was working in. If I saw someone that I spoke to and I treated all of them very well, I mean, I don't know if they would recognize me. Well, you know what? That's so stupid to say, because I was a person they saw pretty much every day. And so,
well, no, but
I don't know how I would feel.
Because the way I view it is, I mean, this is what they do. They're committed to this. They've waited 20 years for now.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, what I think to myself is, okay, because you were there in 2013?
13, 14.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's only 8 years ago. So the individuals that you were interrogating could very well now be part of the leadership. So
yeah.
My reaction isn't how would they feel if they saw you. My reaction is if you saw them and went, oh my God, he's the second in charge of Taliban now?
Oh, I thought you meant if I saw them on the street.
No.
I was thinking they're delivering our FedEx, or I saw them at this grocery store.
No,
okay,
I mean,
that's why I was so jarred. Oh, if
you see them on TV right now tonight, and they're speaking for the Taliban, or the guy behind the leader of the Taliban, his second lieutenant. You're like, oh God, I used to eat with that guy.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I would say, oh, okay.
And you wouldn't be upset.
Met him before.
Back to how we began. You wouldn't be like, well, that was a waste of my time. This guy's now in charge of mutilating people.
I don't. I think I've already kind of taken that thought out of my head with the minute I left. And because, like I said, I was there during the beginning stages of us handing over the specific facility that I was working in, and so that meant we were getting rid of our stuff and everything, and then we were literally just saying, okay, it's like we're moving out.
This is where the United States is handing over control to the Afghan National Army.
We specifically, and when I say we, I'm not going to identify where I was where on Bagram, the facility I was working at. Most service members, if they have been to Afghanistan, they already know. When we hit that little bubble, because we were an outpost. Okay, so that little bubble, when we handed that facility over, like we hand over our house, that's what I'm saying. So that was a minor thing. I mean, it wasn't minor, but it was a minor situation. Again, above my pay grade, did what I was told, whatever. But when we were doing that, it's like, okay, well, we're done here, and we're passing it on to them. And we don't know what's going to happen.
Whatever happens.
Happens. And
because that time frame does coincide with the larger operational change of the United States no longer became, I forget what the exact term is, we were no longer the primary military force.
Right.
2014, somewhere in 2014 is when the United States was no longer technically...
yes.
Whatever, not at war, because we never declare war, because we don't do that anymore, because, Constitution doesn't matter. But... The last 7 years, we've been in an advisory role. Mm-hmm. So that timeline all fits in to that understanding without talking about your specific job. So if you were still in the Army, there's no reason to believe you would be part of what has been happening the last few weeks. Or is there?
I don't think so. Would I be deployed?
Yeah. Specifically related to Afghanistan.
I mean, that's hard to say without saying too much.
No, I understand, but because that was one of the first thoughts I had as your husband was, thank God she's not active.
Yeah,
because she could, and if it wasn't because of this, every event creates another possible opportunity where you would be deployed, whether it was Afghanistan or because of the uncertainty that this situation creates, you're needed elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the broad answer is you always need intel. Wherever we are, we always need intel. Excuse me. Hopefully that didn't come through.
Your burp?
I had a little bit of a throat burp. It's from my tea, but. We always need intel, and even though I went there on an interrogation mission, and my role is an interrogator, or my MOS was interrogator, human intelligence collector. Excuse me, sorry, brain's farting. I've already went into civilian mode. There are a lot of other facets of the job that don't involve interrogations that I could easily see people would be over there for. Yes, intel's always good. You have to have intel to know how to move, right? You need mm-hmm. the brain. Not saying that people outside of the intel are the brain. I'm just using the analogy. I don't want fellow grunts out there to be getting mad at me. Full respect.
As you know, no matter what the subject or topic is, no matter what we say or how we say it, somebody's going to get upset at what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But
it is what it is.
So you're going to continue to avoid this?
What?
The whole, just like involving yourself in the news?
No, I'm not going to avoid it completely.
This news, because that sounded like, I just avoid the news. No. This story.
I'm not going to completely avoid it. I don't want to go through with a fine-tooth comb, but I do have an interest in it, but I feel like I'm self-aware enough to know that right now it would just really drag me down, and there are things coming up that are boring, not mention worthy, that I just need to be mentally on point for. And I feel like that would really occupy my brain, how obsessive I get with like figuring things out here, there, whatever, putting all the pieces together.
Oh, do I?
And so I'm kind of, I'm cutting myself off a little bit. And even just talking this through with you and embarrassingly getting choked up, I didn't realize how affected. I'm not affected like, I'm so affected, but I didn't realize how many emotions were behind the topic in general on my end.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised just because of what I alluded to, the stories you've told and the experiences you had there. So I really do appreciate you doing this.
Of course.
So thank you, babes. We're going to end on that melancholy note. I don't know.
These are usually more fun.
Well, yeah. I mean, but, you know, the topic and all. We had fun in the beginning.
Yeah.
I cut my hand open and all that. Remember the good times?
Yeah.
Right?
Good times.
Hello in the cup holder that you still haven't fixed and
good
all
times.
that. Okay, next time, no seriousness. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
The RAD pROBcast. Did you enjoy this episode of the RAD pROBcast? Send an email to rad@radradio.com. A new episode of the pROBcast premieres anytime Rob feels like doing one.